So, Hassan Piker. Where do I start talking about Hassan Piker? Hassan Piker. Uh, there's this thing where, and it might sound very, um, very, this might sound rude and mean, but there's a thing that distinguishes legitimate interlocutors, legitimate people from frauds. There's this one trait that sort of, I guess, sets apart people that you can sort of, I don't know, I'm not sure if I would use the term depend on, that you can at least trust or believe or whatever else, however else you want to put it. And that is the ability to admit when they are wrong, incorrect, when they've made a mistake. The ability to say, you know what, I thought X was the case, but X was clearly not correct. I made a mistake. I guess moving forward, I have to be more careful about making statements about X. I guess I have more to learn about X than I initially thought. You get the gist, you get the drill. Being more humble. But it seems in the streaming world, in the whole streaming space, the bigger you are, the bigger some sort of pressure there is on the creator to be perfect or something, to not make mistakes, for every opinion to be decisive, for the creator's opinion never to change for the creator, because I guess when you reach a certain amount of audience, that seems to be the logic here, people are afraid to be incorrect, because if they are incorrect and God forbid admit it, then that means that, oh gosh, I guess this person's not like the ultimate expert that we thought him to be. I guess the person's not worth watching anymore, or I guess so the fear is from the big streamers. And I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that's the theory, if that's the explanation, but certain streamers, big streamers, some of the biggest streamers simply refuse ever to admit that they are wrong about something. They just double, triple, quadruple. First, they will say something incorrect, like Hassan Piker about the initial invasion. No, Hassan Piker actually was incorrect even before the invasion began, because he was mocking those who said that it would happen. I think he was saying another day, no invasion, no invasion. He was actually mocking, I believe, the U.S. intelligence that was warning against the invasion. And then he made horrible initial statements about Ukraine. The one that stood out to me the most was when he said that Russia is basically just taking back its territory, that it's he basically played the defense for Russia and its imperial aggression. He doubled down. Then he said that it's not exactly what he said. Along the way, Ukrainian people had a chance, were given a platform to criticize his increasingly bad opinions when it came to the conflict, in response to which Hassan Piker had decided to call the person that has given those Ukrainian people the platform a psychotic pervert, because giving Ukrainian people voices is a clear indicator of being a psychotic pervert. There's nothing more perverted than giving a voice to people that are part of an invaded nation by a bigger country. There's nothing more perverted. There's no bigger perversion that you can commit. And then lately, very recently, I've heard that Hassan has given a brand new, brave and bold opinion on Ukraine, which is basically, I've been right about Ukraine from the very beginning. It's just that I've made my opinions clear too soon. And I want to know what all of this is about. I want to know what all of this is about because this statement alone on its face seems nonsensical to me. But you know what? Maybe I'm in the wrong. Maybe I'll be eating my words soon. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be eating my words in a moment. I have a clip here. I have it prepared. Let us see. Some people should just not be talking on certain subjects. Let's see. It's probably going to be something about NATO. It's probably going to be something about Boris Johnson peace deals. It's usually revolves around stuff like that. Well, let's see.
Have more hope and thought they had a chance, but now it's have more hope and thought they had a chance. But now it's clear you were right. A ceasefire deal should have happened early. Everyone I know in Ukraine is on the verge of mental breakdown, if not already there. Yeah, but remember, because I said that the 15-point plan that was facilitated in Turkey was actually good, I was actually a fucking hater and I was pro-Russia. Remember when I said that? When Ukraine had the leverage, significantly more leverage than they do now, and I said they should have done the ceasefire deal then. Everyone said I was pro-Russia. How many?
Oh, the ceasefire deal. Are we forgetting that very recently a ceasefire deal as proposed by Russia has leaked? And what were the conditions of that deal? Have we already forgotten that a peace deal has leaked from 2022? And we can just look at that deal and see what the terms of that deal were, which we're actually going to do in a moment. Those conditions were not good. Among them was basically rendering Ukraine militarily defenseless, which no reasonable nation state would ever agree to just render itself defenseless and open to future invasion.
Many fucking videos the YouTubers make on that shit. Again, I was right. Too early. It's okay. It's okay, dude. It's all good. I've been saying it. Haven't stopped saying it. Turns out, you know. Have more.
Hasan Piker should really stop talking about Ukraine. He should never talk about Ukraine ever again. Let me see something. During a series of meetings, by the end of March, Russia and Ukraine negotiators produced the Istanbul Communique. Key provisions to the treaty on Ukraine's security guarantees a framework of a possible agreement. The agreement would have declared Ukraine to be a neutral state, put a limit on its military, and list Russia and Western countries including the US and the UK as guarantors, obliged to assist Ukraine in case of aggression against it. Wow, it sounds like the Budapest Memorandum almost. The talks almost reached an agreement with both sides considering far-reaching concessions, but stopped in May 2022 due to the combination of several factors, like, for example, discovering the mass graves in Bucha, but that's neither here nor there. But let's see the leaked peace deal, because I'm really interested in that. Let's take a look at it. Hassan Piker. That is the worst thing that you could ever do. Offer a horrible opinion. Offer another horrible opinion, a series of horrible opinions on a conflict that you have no idea about. Walk back slightly from the horrible opinion. Try to recontextualize your horrible opinions, because when it comes to, for example, the whole Russia's just taking back its territory, Hassan tried to recontextualize it, walk it back a bit, say that he actually never said it, only to go back around and say, oh yeah, I was right all along, actually. I was in the right all along. Ridiculous. Because Ukraine is not in a perfect position right now, which of course there are many explanations as to that, which I will keep sort of stubbornly saying that a big part of it is the West not really fulfilling its I don't want to say duties, but obligations. The West is not really fully committing to its obligations, mainly aid. Like already, Europe has promised Patriot systems to Ukraine, and already we're seeing delays in those Patriot systems being delivered. While in the meantime, I believe one of, if not the biggest attack on Ukraine by missiles and drone has happened just on Monday. So let me see. The status of Russian occupied territories of Ukraine was to be decided in later talks between President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Both sides agreed to exclude Crimea from the treaty, leaving it under Russian occupation without Ukraine recognizing Russian sovereignty over it, which already is, in my opinion, a pretty unacceptable demand from the leaked peace plan. Ukraine offered to abandon aspiration to join NATO. The treaty allowed Kyiv to enter the EU. Russia also demanded the lifting of all sanctions, repealing Kyiv's laws related to language and national identity, and limiting Ukraine's armed forces. Both of these demands are ridiculous. The law regarding language is basically, and there's been a lot of talk about the language law in Ukraine, a lot of heated discussion. Very bizarrely, a lot of those discussions happen in the West. A lot of Western press has framed this law as discriminatory against the Russian language, which is very strange. It is very strange to me. TLDR, basically the law said that in Ukrainian offices, the first language of choice must be Ukrainian, and then if someone asks, then switch to some other language, probably Russian. And of course, in places like restaurants and other places, Ukraine was to be used as the first language of choice. That's the law. Because I'm sorry to say, Ukraine has been Russified for a long, long time, and certain steps do need to be taken to reestablish Ukrainian as the language of the country. And I can perfectly understand such steps. And of course, it does not um, surprise me at all that Russia would be very adamant to repeal such a law. But then there's the second condition, the limiting of Ukraine's armed forces. We're going to see if there are any specific numbers here. Ukrainian negotiators agreed to this in principle, but called for higher caps than those proposed by Russia, and though they were some ridiculous caps that would render Ukraine basically crippled, unable to defend itself at all. Let's be honest here. US and Polish officials were reportedly alarmed at these terms, with one senior American official calling it unilateral disarmament, which, yeah, if you limit a country's military capacity enough, it basically renders the whole military useless. It basically renders the country defenseless. Russian representatives reportedly demanded veto power on these guarantees, meaning they could block international intervention if Moscow itself decided to invade again. Nice, perfect. That is the thing that Hassan claims should have happened, and that he was right to say that this thing should have went into fruition. This thing should have been signed, says Hasan Piker. So there was an important point that the UK, the US, China, and France would come to Ukraine's defense should it be attacked, but Russia has reserved the right to veto those guarantees. Perfect. Perfect for a future invasion, isn't it? With this demand, the Ukrainian team had no interest in continuing the talks. So there you go. According to Hasan Piker, a treaty should have been signed from the beginning. According to Hassan, he was right from the very beginning of talking about this conflict, because I don't know. I don't know what to say. Is he so, if he's just arrogant, if he just doesn't care, what is it? What is it? Am I really led to believe that he did not know about this peace proposal? And it's, am I really to believe that Hassan had no clue that this document surfaced? And all of its demands, all of the demands that Russia had made on Ukraine. I find it very hard to believe that Hassan had no clue of the circumstances of the peace talks of 2022. I find it hard to believe that. Does he really believe those weird opinions that he pushes against? Like those, frankly speaking, pro-Russian opinions that he has been pushing from before the invasion, then like going into the first days of the invasion and forward? Like, he cannot possibly believe that his opinions on the conflict are defensible. Because if he did, then he would have no problem with talking to people that actually know things about this conflict. I believe that rather than cowardly, calling people perverts, he would simply talk to them. If he was even remotely confident in his positions. But if he is not confident enough in his positions to defend them in conversations with other people, and I'm sorry, but a meme streamer slash YouTuber calling onto um Hassan's show, those do not count as um real, concrete opposition to his bad opinions. Like, if he were to be as confident as he makes himself out to be on the topic of the conflict, because now he's just saying that he was right all along, but he just made his opinions known too early, then he would have no problem discussing slash debating those ideas with people that have called them out. And yes, I am specifically talking here about the whole Dylan Burns thing when he gave a platform to Ukrainian people that criticized his takes. He was brave enough to call him a pervert. He was not brave enough to talk to him about it, which makes me feel that he is just not really confident about his opinions. He's confident about to spout them, of course, because talk is cheap. Anyone can say anything if they are left unchallenged on what they are saying. Anybody can say anything if they are in a situation when they can just basically isolate themselves from any meaningful pushback or criticism, and that is basically what Hassan Piker has done. It is a really ridiculous statement to say I was right all along, but I've just made my positions clear too fast. It is really bizarre to claim that Ukraine should have signed a completely unacceptable peace deal early on in the conflict that would render Ukraine defenseless, military completely crippled, and the country itself open to future invasion. Ridiculous. I don't. What else am I to say about this? Hassan should never speak on Ukraine ever again. Unless it's to have a discussion with someone else that actually knows what they're talking about. And no, a guy who taught in Ukraine for 2 years the English language, years before the invasion, does not count. Okay? That does not count either. Bringing in some person that has been teaching English in Ukraine in the past for a few years, that also does not count as having a substantial um, contributor, an expert on the conflict. God. I still remember when that happened. I don't remember the guy's name, but whatever. So yeah, that's it. I've done my little Hassan thing. I've done my little bit of complaining. I saw this, it annoyed me. I have voiced my annoyance, and that's it.